If you're watching this before we've heard anything about the FTC Microsoft hearing that is actually happening today, I believe it's a pre-trial hearing. I'm not that smart when it comes to law. Anyway, I thought I would refer to somebody who is a little bit more smart when it comes to laws and look at a Bloomberg law analysis from a while back about what Microsoft might be doing going into this case and how, if this ends up going to trial, they could combat it. Long story short, the FTC has a long road ahead of them if they want to prove that this is an anti-competitive merger between Microsoft and Activision. And it's not looking great for the FTC. I've said that before, but let's talk about what this lawyer had to say and why they think what Microsoft is doing is smart. Hit that subscribe button. Anyway, this is from Bloomberg Law, and basically Microsoft wants to litigate the fix was the headline of the article. But there's some really, really great information in here, and I've gone through and picked out the ones that I thought were most prevalent for this particular case. So basically, we know about the merger, and the FTC's case against the merger in the U.S. likely isn't the one that will scuttle the deal. Really, the one that's going to cause a problem is the CMA or the UK. So there's the EU and the UK cases that are still looming, and they will take place afterwards. I made a video all about the timeline of the case. You can go sort of check that out and the important points there. But this merger is between a game developer and a game platform. It's a vertical deal, and U.S. courts have proven very reluctant to block vertical deals. But furthermore, Microsoft is preparing to use a strategy that has recently been very successful against U.S. antitrust enforcement actions, litigating the fix. Basically, they said, well, this is a vertical merger. There's no reason to block this. If they're going to take us to court, we'll see them in court, because there are examples of other cases that have just been thrown out for this, and examples recently. By the way, this is written by Eleanor Tyler, a legal analyst at Bloomberg. So I'm just going off of this person's take and what they had to say about the case. When merging parties propose a remedy to the alleged competitive threat posed by their deal and then argue in court that their solution would be competitive, that their solution would completely neuter that threat, they can successfully parry an antitrust enforcement action. So merging parties like Microsoft and Activision have recently won antitrust challenges in the US by thus litigating the fix. Basically, with that 10-year offer that they've offered Steam, that they've offered PlayStation, and it's sitting on the table, and they've offered Nintendo, PlayStation's complaints are largely moot. So Microsoft knows that, and their lawyers know that. Activision's lawyers know that. So they're like, okay, well, it's bizarre that the FTC should know that also. They have some stuff to prove, though. So let's sort of go over the timeline that they cover in this article and some of the things that the FTC might have going for them, instead of just saying, well, okay, it's just sort of a lost cause and the FTC is wasting their time. Here's what they said about their meeting with the FTC. At Microsoft's annual meeting of shareholders, December 13th, President Brad Smith said that his company had offered a binding agreement to make Activision's premium game Call of Duty available to rivals, including Sony, after the merger. So basically, we know that Call of Duty, they were ready to present a deal to the FTC that said, we'll make Call of Duty available for the next 10 years for Nintendo, for Sony, for Steam, for whoever you want. And that kind of destroys that first point. Anyway, the FTC's case is really based on a market that they've identified that they say has two companies and two products, Sony PlayStation and Microsoft Xbox, Smith told investors. The company argues that an agreement not to use Call of Duty as a cudgel against the dominant game console platform should end FTC concerns about the deal. So that's what Microsoft is saying. They're saying that largely, we're agreeing to put Call of Duty anywhere you want it to go. We don't care. That was a weird way to phrase it, but you know what I'm saying. So this point should be moot. There's no reason to stop this. And a judge is going to look at it. And there's some interesting stuff about the judge we're going to talk about in just a second. But before I get there, I am trying to hit 100,000 subscribers 50% of you don't watch. So if you want to help me hit that goal, please consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting that bell, especially if you enjoy these videos and you want to know when they go live, because I try and post them every day and you will know the second they go live if you subscribe, and you'll be helping me out in the long run. So if you've liked my content that I posted and you're not subscribed yet, please take a second, check, and hit that button and subscribe. Anyway, continuing on, because this gets really interesting. What's the harm? There are a couple of problems with that fix, however, and this is where the analyst is pointing out the shortcomings of that argument. First, it only addresses one aspect of the competitive landscape that concerns antitrust watchdogs. And then they still have to deal with the CMA. The CMA believes that the video game market may be shifting from dominance by consoles, which were an effective duopoly between Sony and Microsoft, to a potentially splintered and hotly competitive market for online streaming of games. Now, they're almost there. I don't think it's going to be online streaming. I think we're 5 years away from that really being good, but Microsoft has made great strides, and I'll even give Sony props. Sony's more recent PlayStation 3 streaming has been vastly improved over what it was over PlayStation Now. I don't know what happened from the PlayStation Now to the PlayStation Plus merger, but it's definitely an improvement over where it was. And Microsoft has also been doing very well on this streaming front. However, I don't think it's about streaming of games. I think subscription services are the way of the future. Imagine being able to download a game to your television, or they figured out a way to stream games to your television like they have with the Samsung televisions, with very low latency and a good user experience. Once they get that tech down, consoles will be less in demand because there's going to be more ways that people can access games. Microsoft even made their Project Keystone, which would be a separate box where you could probably download games to it. Oh no, that was all streaming. Never mind. But they made a separate box where you could just stream games to your television that way. And then the deal with Samsung came out later. That was put on hold for now, but the CMA seems to think that, according to this author, that the market's changing, right? So they might be looking at something a little bit different. Second, access to the current games don't alleviate the FTC's concerns about future output. Microsoft already owns 24 gaming studios, the CMA found. I don't know how the CMA found that. Did they go? But like, that's true. But like, it's funny that they say they found it. It's not like Microsoft is hiding that fact. But the point being, the FTC knows that Activision has games in development, and those games now will only release on Xbox if that purchase goes through. There's likely no chance that those games would be cross-platform. And that's the one thing that the FTC seems to be bringing up. We'll see if it comes to fruition, though. Anyway, even if Microsoft agrees to continue providing Call of Duty to rivals, the pool of developers that will create the next bestseller for those rivals is smaller, while Microsoft's pool of top quality content creation assets grows with the merger. Basically, what they're saying is Microsoft's going to have Activision, this huge developer that makes Call of Duty a beloved game, along with a few other things here or there that are quite big, and those games likely will not come to the PlayStation console. I've always said, and this legal analyst is right on the money, I think it's a huge mistake on Sony's part to only focus on Call of Duty. They barely mention one of their own IPs that was created by Naughty Dog. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was Naughty Dog. But anyway, Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot would become an Xbox property and would likely remain Xbox exclusive unless Microsoft decides to release it on multiple platforms. That's one where I think Microsoft should release that on multiple platforms, but time will tell. Anyway, at the shareholders meeting, Smith noted that PlayStation has 286 exclusive games compared with Xbox's 59. So the presiding judge in the FTC's challenge is going to have to decide whether going from 59 to 60 is such a danger to competition that he should not stop this from moving forward. I'm really curious what this judge is going to do. And this is happening, I believe it's happening on the 3rd. So when this airs, it would be happening in the evening, right? Will the judge throw it out of the court outright? Or does it go to trial? Because if it goes to trial, things are going to get a lot more interesting. And there's a lot covered in the next section sort of about what could happen there. So it's going to be difficult for the FTC to prove that Activision's output is vital for future competitors in the streaming, cloud gaming, and console markets that the FTC alleges will be harmed by the merger. That's what the FTC has to prove. And unfortunately, in the FTC documents that we read, you can go check out that video right here, they're making up a lot of terms, right? And largely in the Activision response to the FTC, they called them out. They're like, you can't just make up terms without defining them in your statements and block this case. Now it's going in front of a judge, and the judge is going to say, what's this, what's that, what's the other thing? And if they don't have a strong definition of those terms, maybe there is a chance that he throws it out the door. We're going to find out. Furthermore, the FTC must convince the administrative law judge hearing its challenge that Microsoft proposed fix won't cure potential harms from the deal. Recent cases suggest that's not an easy task. The judge has thrown out cases in the past because Microsoft is proposing 10 years of content on competing platforms. And a lot of those people jumped at the chance to sign those contracts, right? So the FTC has to prove that that hasn't already solved the problem. He doesn't want something coming into his court that's going to waste his time, his or her time. So, like, who knows? In September, ALJD Michael Campbell, who will also hear Microsoft's case, rejected the FTC's challenge to the vertical merger of Illumia Inc. and Grail Inc. Now, here's what happened in that case. The FTC failed to prove that rivals in cancer testing innovation would be harmed by the deal because Illumina's long-term supply agreements meant there was little likelihood that Illumina would stop supplying rivals. It's a very similar argument to Microsoft's that a 10-year agreement to supply Call of Duty to rival gaming platforms constitutes a fix for the harms the FTC seeks to show in console gaming. They've already presented the solution, and the FTC said no, because after 10 years, you could, change your mind and make everything exclusive. That's 10 years later. That's like into the PS6, Xbox Series Y, or Z, Xbox Series Z consoles. Like, that's so far in the future that it doesn't even make sense for the FTC to make that claim. The FTC should be talking about all the other properties, not Call of Duty. And that's the problem. Everybody's focused on Call of Duty because it's an easy thing to target. In September, Judge Carl Nichols of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia rejected the Justice Department's challenge to United Health's acquisition of Change Healthcare. As to the vertical aspects of that merger, Judge Nichols concluded that the DOJ's theory of harm rests on speculation rather than real-world evidence that events are likely to unfold as the government predicts. He also held that the company's proposed divestiture fix was enough to remedy horizontal harms. And that's the thing. Like, that's another example. And it's really interesting that speculation is outlined in that case, because I already talked about how the FTC hasn't clearly defined their terms, and they've sort of made up some stuff that they're going to actually have concrete examples of. And I think the FTC's case is very weak. I think the judge potentially could react like these two judges did in those other cases. The final note they had is this particular deal still faces hurdles, but the outlook for vertical mergers looking to litigate the fix remains bullish in the US. Long story short, what this analyst is saying is Microsoft made a smart call by taking this to court, because there is a very good chance the FTC does not have a leg to stand on. Having read the documents, having seen what has been said by Microsoft and Activision, and the flaws in the FTC's argument being called out very succinctly by Microsoft, by Activision, and Sony has been awfully quiet since those rebuttals happened. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Let me know what you think, and we'll do another video about whatever transpires that this evening, actually, when this airs. And thank you so much for watching. Now, if you didn't before and you're still watching, please, again, consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting that bell. We're nearing in on 91,000 subs. So do you want to be part of the subtopia, I don't know what to call it, where Destin hit 100,000 subs? Well, you can be. You still have that chance. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Thank you so much to the members. If you want to become a member, memberships are just a way that you support YouTube creators. And what I do is I post these without ads. People say, I don't like how many ads you put on your videos. Great, become a member. I'll post it without any ads at all. And you can watch it ad-free for your viewing pleasure. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. If you want to see the video that I mentioned earlier about this case where Activision replied with their spicy reply, it's a good one. Check this out and hit that subscribe button over there or over on that side. And I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.